I'm glad to know I still know how to do it. Welcome everybody on YouTube. We're here to have our weekly study session. Thanks for understanding we didn't have it last week as I took a day off. And we have a wonderful crew here. And we were talking about Buc-ee's, the great truck stop in Texas, which I highly recommend. And I get no kickbacks from it, but it is an incredible experience. In fact, one of the rabbis, the other associate rabbi I worked with in Houston, and she was a nut when it came to bacteria. She didn't want to touch anything that could be, she washed her hands all the time. She wouldn't use public restrooms. I said, you need to go to Buc-ee. She said, I'm not stopping at a truck stop and go to the restroom. And then after she went, she came to me and gave me a big hug and said, now I can stop at a truck stop and go to the restroom because it's so clean. So she was like, you were right. So that's awesome. So what we're doing today, and again, thanks again. We'll be having class most of the time during the summer. I may need to take a day off here or there, but I think for the most part, we're not going on vacation. We're talking about minor holidays today. That's what I had on the list. And so we'll talk a little bit about it. We'll get through as many as we can, and we know it'll be on YouTube for anybody to watch later. But again, I hope everybody's doing well. We have Shavuot obviously coming up next Sunday night, so looking forward to that. So if you go to a calendar, like a major calendar, you go to, the Reform Movement holiday calendar, and I'll show it to you right now. It's going to show you the major holidays because the calendar is really about, celebrating. So if you look at this calendar, it's got Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Shmini Atzeret, Simchat Torah, Hanukkah, Tu B'Shvat, Purim, Passover, Yom HaShoah, Yom HaZikaron, Yom Ha'atzmaut, Lag BaOmer, Shavuos, Tisha B'Av, and Slichot. Almost all of those are things we're familiar with. There's these major holidays, the 7 major holidays, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Passover, Shavuos, and Shabbat. Actually, I think it's 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 6 major holidays. There's, of course, the modern holidays or memorial days of Israel Memorial Day, Holocaust Memorial Day, and Israel Independence Day. And then there's a couple of minor holidays that have become very popular, like Hanukkah, Tu B'Shvat, and Purim, which are very popular in the modern age, and Slichot, which has become popular the Saturday night before Rosh Hashanah. And then we add one more, Tisha B'Av, which is the full fast day to remember the destruction of the temples. But there's a lot of other holidays that don't get on these general lists because these are the lists that you put on your calendar because you may be taking off, you're going to have a special service, it's a vacation, and you need to know this is the Reform Movement's ones. But there are other holidays that are on a larger calendar, which many of us never celebrate and have no idea what they are. So let's talk a little bit about them, and we'll talk about Lag BaOmer as well. But first off, and I love the fact that I know how to do this now, we have Yom Kippur. That is a full fast day. That means fasting 25 plus hours, basically from sundown to Havdalah. Some do it longer, some do it shorter. There is only one other full fast day in Judaism, and it's this one, Tisha B'Av. It is also a full fast day from sundown to Havdalah or sunrise. Really, it's an hour and a half since sundown. It is different in that this is also a major holiday where you don't work, you go to services. Tisha B'Av is not a major holiday. What do you need to do to become a major holiday? Is there an application process? Who gets to vote on this? The answer is you have to be in the Torah. That's the first thing. You have to be specifically in the Torah. So the ones mentioned in the Torah are these 3. This one, sort of, kind of. The names are given later. This one and this one. These are the ones mentioned in the Torah. And so you can also be in the Bible, and then you are a holiday, but you're not considered a major holiday. So these 3, let me get the color, are, of course, in the Bible. This one is sort of in the Bible. So Hanukkah, Tu B'Shvat is not in the Bible, sorry. Just ignore this. Tu B'Shvat is not in the Bible. And then you have others that we add as the years go on. That's an older holiday and then newer holidays. So, but these are the ones that are mostly celebrated. But as I said, there are a lot of others. So when it comes to fast days, there is more than just 2 fast days. If you look at the Jewish calendar and look at the fast days, you have a lot more. In fact, you have several more. So if we go on here, you'll see that we have these other fast days. They're known as minor fast days that will be on the calendar. A minor fast day is different. You only fast during the daylight hours. It's kind of like Ramadan. So sunrise to sunset. So 10th of Tevet starts on a Friday night. On a Thursday night, you won't fast the Thursday night. You'll fast when you wake up in the morning for the day, and that's it. So it's still difficult, but it doesn't have the same urgency. But these 5 minor fast days are ones that most people are not familiar with. And so we can just talk a little bit about them. The first one is the Fast of Gedalia. How many of you have ever heard of that? So some of you have heard of it. It's just memorializing the killing of a Jewish governor of Israel during the downfall of the first temple. Like as the temple is destroyed and then a Jewish governor is put into place by the Babylonians, and then he is assassinated, causing a host of other things that create havoc in the world. But it's not a major holiday. So basically, it happens, and because of his murder, the Jews are treated more harshly, and life becomes a little bit more difficult. And some claim that because of this, a lot of the Jews are kicked out of Israel during the first exile. Now, we don't know exact day. Some say it's this day or this day, so it is chosen, and that is the day we observe it. So when is the Fast of Gedalia? It is during the month of Tishrei. Who can tell me what the month of Tishrei is also? What are the holidays? The other holidays are Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and then also Simchat Torah, Kol HaMoed. So it is in the middle of a slew of major holidays. It is in the middle of the major holiday month. So as you can imagine, it is not one that is very well known because we got a lot of other things going on. It's on the 3rd of Tishrei. So what does that mean? What is the 1st of Tishrei? The 1st of Tishrei is Rosh Hashanah. For people, some people celebrate Rosh Hashanah for 2 days if you live outside Israel. So day 1 is Rosh Hashanah, day 2 is Rosh Hashanah, and then day 3 is the Fast of Gedalia. So of course it doesn't get a lot of press because you've just had 2 holidays, possibly taking 1, if not 2 days off from work. Your holiday out, and you know Yom Kippur is coming pretty soon. And so even though it is not celebrated as much as the other things, it still is considered a holiday. And basically what it's memorializes is once this governor is killed by Jews, the Babylonians are more strict. They kind of take away any of the Judah autonomy that they might have, and they become a vassal, more than a vassal country. They become part of the Babylonian Empire and lose their country altogether. And so this is the fast, and Gedalia is basically nothing more than this Roman governor who was assassinated. So what are the other minor fast days? So the next one, or that's not the next one, but is the Fast of Tevet. It's the 10th of Tevet. Now, what is the importance of this, it doesn't seem like it's a big deal because we don't have it as a major holiday. It's not the destruction of the temple even. It is when the Babylonians attack and begin to attack the temple. So that's why it's interesting. It's not the destruction of the temple. That would be Tisha B'Av. This is when the attack starts or when the walls are breached. And so it is before Hanukkah, but it is mentioned in the Bible. If you look there in 2 Kings, when in the 10th month of the 10th day, the 10th day of the 10th month, they begin the attack on the city of Jerusalem. And so this is why we have it as the 10th of Tevet. It's not a major fast day, but it forces us again to remember the issues of our past and the fact that it was not the gods of anybody that destroyed the temple. It wasn't the Babylonian gods that defeated us. It was our own actions, and that we did not really choose the right side. We weren't smart enough to choose the Babylonians. We were thinking of rebelling by choosing the side of the Egyptians. And so we have a fast day right before, pretty close to Hanukkah. So of course, it's not going to get all of the press, especially in the modern world, because Hanukkah is, of course, a celebration day. So is this in the Bible? Sort of. It is not. The holiday is not in the Bible, but the event is in the Bible. The beginning of the attack to destroy the temple. Now, the minor fast day that is the most well-known is the Fast of Esther. This is most well-known because it's part of the story of Purim. And of course, we know Purim is a celebration, so having a fast day is kind of strange. But before Esther, we'll go over the story again. In the story of Purim, the story of Esther, Haman has convinced the Ahasuerus, the king, to destroy the Jews. Mordecai goes to his niece or his cousin and says, Esther, you are queen of this empire. Please go to King Ahasuerus and ask him to stop this lunacy. Tell him you're Jewish. And she is very nervous because you're not allowed to approach the king unless he requests you. It's punishable by death. Tells you a little bit about this king. And so before she goes to visit him, what does she do? She fasts. She fasts in preparation of going to visit him. And that has become known as the Fast of Esther, coming right before Purim. So some people will actually fast before Purim and then celebrate Purim. And so, again, it brings the idea of fasting in preparation of something, where the other fasts are really fast of terrible things, the fast of something bad happening. This is a different fast to the other fasts in that this is a fast of preparation to do something brave. So this fast is very unique, as all of the other fasts commemorate something bad. Well, this commemorates a heroic effort to save Jewish people. And so this one is probably the most well known, although a lot of people have heard of the Fast of Gedalia because Gedalia is such a cool name. And so you think Gedalia, and Esther, of course, is very well known, but this is probably the most famous of the minor fasts. And so it's said that other people have fasted this day throughout history before they've done something heroic. So basically, you mimic her. Now, this is not, again, a fast day that is set as a holiday. This is a fast day honoring her, that she did it. But there's nothing in the Bible that says, I don't believe everybody should be fasting on this day. Any questions so far before we get to the last one? Also, the similar rules to the fast day of Yom Kippur are the same for all the fast days in terms of health, age, pregnancy will all limit your ability to fast. So that always remains the rule. Health, trumps any of these other things. So the last fast day comes in the summer, and this is the 17th of Tammuz. This is a lament. Basically, it's kind of similar to Tisha B'Av in many ways. It laments a lot of things that went on during our time period in history. But if you go there, this is when the walls are breached. This is when the walls of the temple is breached. So it comes shortly before Tisha B'Av, because of course Tisha B'Av is when the temple is destroyed. So the walls are breached. It doesn't mean the war's over, but it just means that it's going to happen pretty soon. And so it's also a day kind of like Tisha B'Av, in which we honor the memory of a lot of people of bad things happening. Because it's a minor fast compared to the major fast of Tisha B'Av, Tisha B'Av really is much more well known and much more celebrated because obviously it's a full fast day. So that makes it a little bit more, and it commemorates the destruction of the temple as opposed to the beginnings of the destruction of the temple. So these are, again, the fast days that are set aside for us. Some people follow these fast days, some don't. Certainly Yom Kippur is by far the most prominent. In the Reform movement, Tisha B'Av has not become a major part of our way of life. Now, are you familiar with Tisha B'Av, or should we do that as well?
Rabbi, question for you.
Sure, Larry.
I just was reading this a little bit. I just took it off. I noticed that it said the walls were breached in 70 CE, the Common Era, and the temple was destroyed in 79.
The temple was destroyed in 70 CE.
In 70 CE as well?
Yeah, a few weeks after this happened.
Oh, so, okay, I thought 79 for some reason. I don't know why I was thinking. But
no, it's 70. Actually, the temple's destroyed in 70 or like 60. Yeah, 70. The war starts 67, temple 670, and I think Masada is taken in like 73.
Oh, okay. What is the whole philosophy behind fasting? I mean, it seems to me like you're supposed to deprive yourself, and I know many religions have it. And you're supposed to, dedicate your thoughts to purity and things like this. But does it, in your opinion, do you think it works? It always seems to me the major thing is, when is it, where are we going to eat break the fast?
And that's a really good question. The answer is, I think it works perfectly. It is a brilliant move by the rabbis or whoever decided on the fast days. Why am I saying or whoever decided? We have to remember, for Yom Kippur, it does not say you are supposed to fast. It says you're supposed to, it's a day of self-denial. That's the translation, I think, that's best. So it's very difficult to know exactly what the Jews were doing in the desert to celebrate or memorialize Yom Kippur, because it says it's a day of denial, self-denial. So that meant people had to decide and translate what self-denial means. And fasting is perfect. Why is fasting perfect? Because fasting is something everyone can do. Whether you're highborn or lowborn, whether you're man or woman, educated or uneducated, everybody needs to eat. So if you fast, you will not only be doing something together, you'll also be physically feeling it. So you can feel it in your body and your soul. And a day is not, for a healthy person, a day of fasting is not a dangerous thing. It's not going to kill you or create permanent harm. Obviously, if you're already sick, then obviously you don't fast. But for a normal, healthy person, you fast for an entire day, you're going to feel it. You're going to be hungry. You're going to be suffering just a little bit, but enough to at least give you that kind of thought to what our ancestors must have done when they were really suffering. And yes, it gets you thinking about food, but the holidays themselves are the same thing. You don't dwell on the destruction for more than a day. You don't dwell on the fasting for more than a day. In Israel, you don't dwell on Memorial Day in Israel for more than a day, because the next day is Israel Independence Day. You're thinking about the future and the happiness of the future, even in desperate moments. And so that's why it really obviously, even though it says self-denial, it logically feels like the ancient Israelites probably did fast on this day, because it's been passed down and because it's an obvious way of self-denial. But we don't know for sure, but we do know that fasting is something that really affects everyone. And so even if you're a child, you can fast in some way. You can, no dessert, only eat healthy food, have, instead of your mac and cheese, have you probably don't want to do that because it'll make vegetables sound bad to the kids, but you know what I'm saying. So it's a really important way that we connect. And as we see, it has become a way other religions, because Christianity and Islam both have their self-denial days as well. Of course, Islam has a whole month, which you don't fast during the day. Christianity and you have Lent, which is where you're supposed to prohibit yourself from doing something for a certain amount of time. It's not a fasting day. So self-denial is important. And secondly, self-denial is one of the most important gifts God has given to humanity. It goes along with self-awareness. Animals do not have the capacity for self-denial just because they want self-denial. Animals only fast when they don't have access to food. Animals only stop eating when they can't find something to kill or somebody doesn't feed them. So no animal, unless you're sick, is going to refrain from eating when they're hungry. We can refrain from eating when we're hungry. We have control over our desires. And this is a unique thing on our planet. As far as we know, humans are the only ones that can do this. You don't see a lion saying, you know what, it's Yom Kippur, I'm not going to kill that gazelle till tomorrow. You just don't see that. Lion's hungry, he attacks and tries to find something to eat. So it really does work, I think. And the fact that we do have one fast day that almost every Jew at least knows about, and many Jews will keep Yom Kippur somewhat, a lesser number Tisha B'Av, and even lesser number the minor fast days. Well, Tisha B'Av is a minor fast day, but the minor non-full day fast. So that's a good question, Larry. I think, no.
Yeah. I personally feel that we should relate that fasting to the hunger of so many people today. And I don't know if that's a Jewish thing or a personal thing, but there's so many people hungry that have no access to food. Well, how do you feel about that?
That's 100% right, and I should have mentioned that too. I mean, that's the point, is not only remembering our ancestors were hungry, but people today, and that's really a major part of it. The idea is we honor our ancestors with self-denial so we can feel their pain. And that's what we do for other people. That Judaism teaches us we need to speak of others' suffering and remember that we suffered as well, so we can feel what they're feeling, even if we have not literally suffered in that way. Like our ancestors suffered through trials and tribulations I can't imagine, but I have to say I suffered as a Jew so that I will understand the suffering of others. And so that's why we do so many things social action wise, but that's an excellent point. So yeah, I should probably brought that into it, that it's also to do just that.
Do any of the other holidays, minor or major, talk about things like Noel was talking about, giving charity on those days, or any other requirements or customs? All
of them speak of that. You may not be able to give charity on certain days, like Yom Kippur, because you can't carry money. But the idea is prayer is useless unless there is action and study. Study is useless unless there is action and prayer. So all of the holidays talk about tzedakah beforehand. Obviously, you can give, but the minor holidays you can give tzedakah because it's not a full holiday. So yes, every holiday has something to do with donating money, helping others, just nonstop. And again, the destruction of the temple is a way for us to say the world is broken. We need to help fix it. Now, obviously, at different times, we've had more opportunity to help. In some places of the world, we were not given the opportunity to help others and we were isolated. And in some places like here in America, we have a plethora of opportunities to do these things. And so the idea is to teach. And again, a lot of these holidays, give tzedakah before Rosh Hashanah, give tzedakah before Yom Kippur. Passover, obviously, remember those who are struggling, who are not free. So basically, it's you don't want to do the tzedakah on a major holiday or go to the homeless shelter to volunteer. But remember that there's only a few major holidays. So you got the rest of the year to do all these things and only 1 or 2 days or a couple of days to pray with everyone.
You mentioned at the very beginning that the major holidays had to be mentioned in the Torah. Then others had to be mentioned, at least in the Bible, like Esther and things like that.
No. They don't have to be mentioned in the Bible at all. They just have to be. No. There's going to be some in the Bible.
Oh, and then there were the third class of.
Yeah.
But who decides on those then? I mean, do the rabbis have sort of a convocation and and say, okay, let's do the Feast of Gedalia, or let's Yom HaZikaron, or is that Parliament in Israel now that does these things?
Well, that is a great question. For Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut, Israel Independence Day, Israel Memorial Day, that was Israel. Obviously, Israel made that decision. Knesset voted on it. For the other holidays, it's left up to the world. Now, the 7 major holidays are in the Bible. There's one other, the Torah, there's one other we'll talk about in a second. So those days are pretty much set. All the others have been added through the years. And it's either a rabbinical group starts it, or maybe the people start it and it catches on over time, just like Hanukkah. And some of them we have evidence of, like Hanukkah, we have a lot of evidence of how it started. Others we don't have as much. But you're right. At some point, somebody made the decision and it caught on. And it can catch on 2 ways. We can start a holiday and then it becomes really popular. And then the leaders say, we're going to make this an official holiday. Or the leaders can make an official holiday and we start celebrating it. So Michael and then Noel.
Just, in the back of my memory growing up, isn't there a fast the day before Pesach, but it's only for the firstborn men? And then there was a way to get around it. And I don't remember much about it. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, there is a fast of the firstborn. That is not as much celebrated as others. I could probably mention it. But because it's basically goes to the idea that originally the priests were everybody who was a firstborn was supposed to be the priest or a Levite. But very quickly they decided instead of having the firstborn be priests and lower priests, we're going to select an entire tribe to be the priests. So this commemorates that kind of buying back. It's very similar to the Pidyon Haben. But yes, it is, and it comes right before Passover.
And then there's a way of getting around it so that you don't have to fast. And I don't remember.
There's a way of getting around everything. You can get away around everything in Judaism. It's a very law binding. So since you're dealing with law, there's ways around everything. So the qualifications or how you do it is it's not always set. For instance, some women would say it counts for women and men. Others might say it's just for men, but it really is supposed to be for women and men, so it's a little different. And it commemorates, again, firstborns who died at different times in history. This is a fast that is set in the Talmud. This is not a biblical fast at all. So we don't know exactly where it began, but we do know it is in the Talmud, and it is debated throughout history. Now, there's always debates as to who is considered the oldest child. As we know, those debates can be for a variety of reasons. I have an older brother who died at 2 weeks old. Well, in Judaism, you're not considered the firstborn really until you live a month. So am I the firstborn if my brother, who I never met, died at 2 weeks? Also, am I the firstborn if my father had a second wife and I'm the firstborn with her, as opposed to my half brother who's older than me? So also, should the woman or just the man I mean, there's a lot of, debates. It is not as popular and not as but it is a fast day.
So if we wanted to celebrate, for example, the first coming of the Jews to the United States and make that a holiday, we could propose that. Congregation Mikveh Israel could propose that.
Oh yeah.
As and how would it get started, for example?
Well, let's say all of us say we're going to make a holiday for Jews coming to America. It's going to be on February 7th because we don't have any holidays except for Tu B'Shvat during that time period. And we're going to celebrate it and nobody else is. Well, then it dies there. But
Right.
Then maybe another synagogue catches on and another. And in 50 years, another couple rabbis say, well, that's a great idea. The Jews in America have thrived for so long. And eventually it takes hold. That does not happen very often unless you have a basis in the Bible, though. The exceptions obviously would be the Holocaust, Israel, Independence Day, and Israel Memorial Day. Tu B'Shvat is a holiday celebrating nature. They base it in the Bible. So it is very possible to do these things. It just does not happen very often. And no.
In your experience and in your opinion, do you feel that most just regular Jews like us, I don't know, y'all could all be multimillionaires, but do you feel that most Jews, probably Robert is.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's why I went into the rabbinate.
I didn't hear that. Could you repeat it, Rabbi, what she said?
She said, the rabbi might be, I was going to become a business person or a doctor, but I really wanted to become wealthy. So I became a rabbi. That was
Yeah. So what is your feeling? Because I absorb everything,
Yes.
Unfortunately, and it's the bad stuff. Do you feel that most Jews are generous in giving or not? Are the richer less likely to give, and are regular people the ones who give the most?
That is that's a really interesting question, which we probably could not have answered 200 years ago, but we can today because the statistics don't lie, and Jews are very generous overall. I mean, very, compared to others, we are at the top level. So Jews donate more money per income than I think any other people, especially in America, but in other places as well. So we are a very generous lot overall. Is every Jew generous? Absolutely not. There are a lot of stingy people out there who are not. There are a lot of Jews who are wealthy who don't give, but there are a lot of Jews who are not who do. So if you count money and volunteer hours, because not everybody is capable of giving money, then we're astronomical. I mean, the amount of money Jews donate is, and I'll just give you Houston as example. At the synagogue where I served, in Houston, where Noel and I met, Temple Emmanuel, a woman there, an incredible woman, realized that Houston, which is a very big city, it's now the third or fourth biggest in the country after New York, LA, and it's right up there with Chicago. realized there was not a big homeless organization in the entire city. And so she founded the biggest homeless organization in Houston. I'm sure they're still doing with it, kind of went off on itself, but it's a major institution. And I remember I was doing stuff with them, and I think I was at a board meeting, and one of the board members said, you know what, we need to bring more rabbis and more Jews into our organization so that we can help the Jews out there who are suffering. After all, it was a Jewish synagogue that created this organization. And the director of this organization said, no, we don't need to do that because the Jews take care of themselves. So basically he was saying, you know, the Jews take care of themselves, plus they do other things. So yes, Jews, although there's that stereotype that Jews are stingy, it is not proven to be true overall. So yeah, we do donate an incredible amount of money and give an incredible amount of time. Just look at all the people you know and I know, and all of them are doing something. But it's not something guaranteed. Again, you know, it's something you have to be trained. You have to train people to know how to donate money. You have to train your children to give hours because we're all busy. And I know when I was growing up, I was not trained to donate money because it was just assumed. I mean, that's just what you did. They never had to train you because everybody did it automatically. But in our world today, obviously, it's something we need to work on to keep it going because we have a lot of issues, but we also have a wealth in many respects. So wealth both educationally and fiscally. Michael?
You know, sometimes I think that giving money is the easy way out, and you know, it's time that is really the more valuable commodity. And I think especially of you know, a lot of congregations, you know, when you're Bar Mitzvah, you have to do a project, you know, a tzedakah project or mitzvah project, whatever.
Both, yeah, you usually do both.
And you know, most of them I think are pretty trivial, and you know, the children don't really spend a lot of effort, and the parents, you know, it's easy to write a check or whatever. And so I've often thought that the time is a more significant. Well, it's not more significant, but it's an underemphasized commodity in terms of charity.
And that's something we have to work on. You know, when it comes to obviously the last year or two, the projects have been very limited because they can't go out, they couldn't go to the house. But you have to remember, when you're doing a mitzvah project as a 13-year-old boy or girl, you're very limited on what you can do. You can't drive. A lot of organizations don't let you volunteer for them unless you're 16 or 18. The important thing is to teach them to do it. Whether you're working with an organization, if you go to you know, like there may be a animal control place that will let this age volunteer. Most have to be older, but maybe I just walk the dogs. You know, you teach them by walking the dogs. That means the adult has now an extra hour to do good for these animals. So by bringing books to gathering books from your community and donating it again to I'm just thinking of ones that they've done, you know, a giant book drive to give books to the hospital for the kids ward. You're involving all these other people. So it's about teaching them how to do it and that it's important to give of your time. And I think it's something we have to continue to train people. Some do it very well and some don't. But, you know, we have to really try. Also, obviously, you have more time to give when you retire than if you're working full time. So it's about making sure grandparents or parents who are retired donate their time so their kids and grandkids will see it, because obviously right now, you know, it's if you're a working mom and dad, you got to work a lot of hours sometimes because the world is very expensive. You give what you can. So it's just a passing down, paying forward thing.
Well, we're in New Jersey now, and we had a couple of days where we didn't have internet because, you know, we just got it reinstalled there. So I went to the library the other day, and we have a pretty good library over here that has a lot of foreign films. And I took out this film, just reading the title of it.
Oh,
It's
A
called
Borrowed Identity.
I've seen that.
and just
I have
getting
not. I've
back
never
to-
heard of it.
You've never heard of it? Yeah, put it on your list if you can get it. But getting back to Michael's point, what this is it's about an Arab boy, a Palestinian, living in Israel, and they are basically, going to schools there that are Arab or Palestinian type schools. And this kid apparently is pretty exceptional. And then they get some opportunities for scholarships at what is supposedly the finest school in Israel for students. And they admit a few Arab students, and they decide that, through a competition, he is admitted, this kid, and he goes to the school. But as part of the going to the school, you have to sign an agreement to do a service commitment. And his service commitment that he gets assigned to is to, it's not like you pick it, they assign it to you apparently. And his service commitment is he's got to go to this house. It's a mother who's a single parent. Her husband had passed away, and it's a kid that's about his age, 15 or so at the time. And this kid has muscular dystrophy. He's bound to the wheelchair and can't. And it's such a beautiful story about how the two of them bond, and it has a real surprise ending to it, which is a wonderful, twist at the end, which I won't tell you, but it's just a beautiful story about. So here you have it and this of course is in Israel. I think it's based on a true story, somewhat of a true story, or at least, the fact that the kids have to do this commitment.
Yeah.
Like Michael said, the kids don't pick their project, but the school assigns it to them and something meaningful. And it's like anything. Some kids get committed to it and it becomes a life work. Some kids get, do it and, well, let me get it over with, with my Bar Mitzvah project, I'll check it off, just like with life, you check off a few things, you don't have a passion for it.
Yeah,
But
and
it's a wonderful film.
And it's a great thing because even if you're just doing it to check it off, you're still doing it.
Right. Sometimes you just got to get the foot in the door.
Right, exactly.
To see what it's like. And, you start, it's, get the foot in the door, and then the second foot comes in, and, you start in little ways. And, you're right.
And I can give an example. Obviously, you're some of you in Bluffton, some of you in Houston, but in Savannah, every board, I mean, if you go to you and I'm on a bunch of boards and I volunteer a lot of places, there is always, without any, never has it never been the case, tons of people, Jewish people from the community volunteering on boards for the city, doing volunteer work, and it is nonstop. I mean, people in Savannah think there are a lot of Jews in Savannah. They probably think there's 20, 40, 50,000 Jews because there's so many Jews who volunteer when there's only a few thousand. So I think it's one of the reasons people in America think there's so many Jews, because they see Jews volunteering at a lot of things. I mean, it's just part of the tradition. And so I think it's something we have to, but it's something we have to teach, because obviously, Jews today, my age or younger, can't afford to give the same percentage of their wealth to charities unless they're making a ton of money, and not all Jews are. I mean, it's to go to school, to go to college is much more expensive. So you still have to learn to give what you can. And it's always hard to figure that out. I mean, obviously, if you don't have a lot of money, it's easy. You give very little. If you're very wealthy, you can give a lot. But if you're in the middle section, making a good living, but still have to support your family, you have to, you have to balance it. And that's what we do. We train our kids to do that.
Yeah, I don't know how it is in Mikveh Israel, but in one of the shuls that we were in for a very, very long time in New Jersey here, the biggest, and it seemed to be endemic throughout all of the shuls at the time, was a conservative congregation. We were members there for about 35 years. And it seemed like the biggest problem was retention after Bar Mitzvah.
Yeah, and that's always a problem.
Yeah, families just said, okay, I've gone through my commitment. My kids are not interested anymore. They want to play soccer or baseball or whatever, and I can't get them to go, and and they would drop out, and just the retention rate. Eventually, it led to the demise of people got older, they moved away, younger people were not coming in. Blame it on the Chabad to some reason. That's always the
No, you definitely can't blame anything on
No,
Chabad.
I know, I'm just saying that
That's,
that was always came up at
Whether
every
you like
board
them or
meeting.
not.
You know, they're
Yeah.
eating our lunch because they're providing, and they do provide this kind of a service. And but do you find that in Mikveh Israel? Of course, you don't have
the numbers, yeah.
the like a smaller suburban community like we did, where everybody moved in, when they were in their 20s, had their kids, sent them to Hebrew school, religious school, and Bar Mitzvah, and then had to decide, do we stay or don't stay? But do you get a good retention rate after Bar Mitzvah?
Let me go to Noel first, then we'll talk about that, because I think she wanted to add something.
Rabbi, if y'all accept me, I'm going to be a member of your congregation. You know that.
Oh, we love it. I left a message for you. I got
the message. Okay. Are y'all going to accept me?
Yeah, you didn't fill out the paperwork. That's all that's needed.
Okay. And I need to pay.
Yeah, well, just send, I'll talk to you later, because you just got to write your name on form, basically.
So what can I do in Texas to help your congregation? I have so much experience in working with the mentally ill, abused children, all that segment of society. And I've seen so much, and I want to use that experience somewhat. And I don't know if there's something I can do from Houston.
Okay.
What do you think?
All right, just somebody brought me some. So these are both good questions. But let's go to one. We'll go to both of them. Start with Larry and then come to Noel. All houses of worship, churches, synagogues, mosques are having trouble with retention. It's across the board. In the Jewish world, it is after Bar Mitzvah. In the other worlds, it's just depending. We cannot put the blame all solely on the families, because we have to make sure what we're doing is worthwhile. There's always going to be families that leave at, their kids leave at 13, but in most cases, they stay members of the synagogue, and there's still some connection, maybe youth group, maybe they're doing this, or they need a rabbi for this. We struggle, and it's because we need to do better to encourage students to do it. So the onus is on both. And yes, everybody struggles. The synagogue I was at in Houston did a great job. They had a very high percentage that stayed all the way through their senior years of high school. In fact, they now, after I left, they take every high school student who's gone all the way to 12th grade to Israel for free.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, of course, they had a very generous.
But what can I do with my experience?
Now, as for Noel, this is something to definitely discuss. Again, with the technology we have today, there's a plethora of things you can do to speak with people, to donate time and effort, and we can talk about that later. But there's plenty you can do still.
How can I do that for you?
Well, we'll talk about. I'll give you a call. And we'll go, because there is, and again, everything's virtually done now, or even if it's live, it's virtual. So these are really good questions. I think retention, and I'm glad we stayed on the subject of minor holidays throughout this class today. I'm very rigorous in making sure we don't change. Michael.
Yeah, the question, I'm glad Larry raised it. And I think Larry and I and Jane and Eileen have had discussions about retention and, synagogue attendance and things like that. And it's certainly in my household, it certainly has been an issue for a long time, both parents and children. And I think that that question is probably even worth a class, because not that we're going to solve it. I know people have been talking about it for decades, but it just strikes me that we as Jews or Jewish leaders, take me out of the equation, have not. There's something that's not right. There's something that's not inviting. Whether it's the fact that we're liturgical. So you go to synagogue and you say the same thing week after week, morning after morning. It's not, for some people, that's not very attractive. For others, it's kind of comforting. And I recognize that. I mean, it's really nice to walk into a synagogue in Israel and, I might as well be in, Savannah or New York. It's the same thing. Other people would find that, you're just spouting words. So I don't know. I'm glad Larry mentioned that. I just wanted to.
Well, we can have a whole class because you're 100% on the mark with that. And that's and again, it all has to do with coming to America. When our families came to America, they were praying for some sense of involvement in the community, to have freedoms, to have access, and all of their dreams came true, 100%. Jews can be in any field they want. They can live anywhere. There's no restrictions on where you live, and the side effects, and there's always side effects, is the assimilation factor, where you can assimilate now, especially in the last 40 or 50 years, where when I grew up, you went to synagogue. That was it. You went through confirmation, and that was it. You married somebody who was Jewish. That has all changed. And so because we have so many options now, the leadership, the houses of worship, the laity have to do more to welcome and involve people, because it's not automatic anymore. And funny enough, the Pew study just came out, the most recent one. I unfortunately was not able to go. There was a session on it. They discussed it. I had a funeral at the last second, so I didn't get to go. But I'm going to be reading a lot of the stuff, and it'll go through all the statistics on what's going on. I don't think there's very many changes from the last one in terms of, but you're right. This is the thing. But again, it's not just Jews who are going through this. Christians, Muslims, everybody. When you come to a country that is welcoming, although there's a lot of issues in America, it's a more welcoming place than probably Jews have ever had before. And maybe Muslims in the first world, it's maybe two, again, there's so many more options here. And so these are the things we struggle with. So we have to learn how to be Jewish in a world where we're not persecuted. Michael?
The last thing you said is getting at it. I just want to say this because, we talk about assimilation as an issue. And I have not looked up the definition of assimilation, but I think contemporary usage is that you're part of society. And to me, being part of society is, economic, social, recreational, whatever. But those are all separate, perhaps, from the idea of keeping one's faith. You can assimilate and be Jewish or Catholic or Muslim. But we as Jews tend to talk about assimilation as a way of lessening our Judaism. And I guess I don't quite, understand. I understand, but I don't understand the relationship.
Well, this is, and we can have a whole class, and we'll be finishing in a second. We can do the whole class on it. There, again, using the language, we are comparing the word assimilation versus the word acculturation. And one of them has become get lost in the world and lose your sense of self and your connection to your past and your religion. Acculturate is to become part of America while keeping your semblance of Judaism and your unique belief system as well. And so assimilation may be able to mean both of them, but this is the way it's become the negative in many ways, although it's positive also. It's positive that we have the opportunity. So the word that's usually used is acculturate. And so, but I agree with you. So, the opportunity for freedom to choose whether I'm Jewish or not is amazing. The opportunity to choose whether I live here or there is amazing. The opportunity to go to university, the opportunity to go to synagogue or skip going to synagogue or not be affiliated is amazing. It's a freedom. But there's always side effects to freedoms as well. So why don't we talk about next time? We'll talk about assimilation, acculturation, and maybe we'll talk about all the other minor holidays we ignored. Excuse me.
And I'm sorry, I'm not going to be here next week. And
what? You can watch it. You can watch it.
I can watch it on YouTube.
YouTube, yeah.
Before you leave, Rabbi,
Everybody going? Where are y'all all going? You're disappearing.
My daughter is visiting, and we have to take her to the airport to go home.
Oh, okay.
Rabbi,
You
before
I
you
haven't
leave,
been anywhere.
You can do it while you're driving. Just put us on speaker.
Yeah.
Rabbi, before you leave, anything new that you've heard from URJ or anything about what's happening in Israel now? with
No,
the-
I actually have not had a chance to get on this morning and check the updates.
It's pretty
Again,
bad, yes.
It is bad. Again, I imagine it's very similar. Hamas trying to create havoc, stalling any peace process, taking advantage of sincere issues that the Palestinians are facing. Israel retaliating, obviously, which has effects beyond Hamas. And again, that's the real issue. That what is Israel supposed to do to respond? What is too much and what is the right amount? It's not like going to war, which is very obvious, because in this case there are a lot of civilians that are being used as shields. So fortunately, in America, generally the newspapers are a little bit more even-handed. So they'll say what Israel is doing properly to defend itself and what they may be doing too much to be too aggressive. And they're also doing the same thing and not blaming Israel as opposed to Hamas, which a lot of newspapers in the world will say it's all Israel and nothing is doing. So I don't know. I have to check and see what the updates are. And I missed the update earlier yesterday to see what's going on. But it is it's the worst it's been in a while. So we'll see what happens. But again, a pleasure. I'm going to go take somebody around real quick, but it is always a pleasure. We'll do assimilation, acculturation, and we'll talk about dedication and the fact that if you decide on a topic we should discuss, you should have the dedication to at least come to that session.
Thank you. I'm duly admonished.
Yes. So that's as far as I go. I don't scream and yell. I just guilt people. That's my role. Thank you, Mom.
Thank you, Mother.
Yes, pay me well.
It sounds like you got quite a program coming up for Shavuos.
Yes, we're going to go over a very controversial movie, which I was debating whether we should do it because it's so controversial, but people will be invited to watch it. It's free, I think, on Prime, so everybody will have access.
Oh, okay. I was wondering about that. Okay, it is on Prime. Okay.
We could, I
And
think,
that's
legally.
my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday!
May 16th is my birthday, and you want to know how old I am?
I don't want to. I'm not going to. If you'll tell us, then that's great. But I'm not going to ask you.
83.
Happy! Wow, you could have your second Bar Mitzvah or first one.
I can.
I forgot about that. Mazel tov. That is. Can I put that in our thing to announce for Shabbat? Because we do Shabbat
Noel
services
Foreman
today.
is 83 years old.
That is so awesome. And it's actually on. Is it on Sunday or Monday?
Sunday,
On
May
Shavuot.
16th.
Fabulous. Well, happy birthday to you. That is exciting. So I'll get to mention it at services now.
I don't know why I'm still here.
You're still here because you're still awesome and you're still vibrant and amazing. So that it's not the age anymore. It's not age. It doesn't matter. Age is it's health, and that's what you could be 95 and super healthy or 65 and very ill.
But in my opinion, you have to have a good heart and be a good person.
That certainly helps.
Am I right?
Yes, it
It
does.
helps.
That's what you're doing. And so thank you guys and happy birthday, Noel. And looking forward to hopefully you'll be here for Shavuos when we have our study session. I can wish you live and we'll sing happy birthday to you. And everybody have a good day. And I'll talk to you, Noel, about all the other things. All right.
Yeah.
Stay safe.
There's a lot of stuff
We're going to be here next Wednesday and we'll be talking about assimilation, acculturation, and we'll talk a lot about the inadequacies of Michael Schwartz, who's gifting this session. So everyone be good and we'll see you then.
Have a good week.